Good morning and welcome to the CALex and iGiG Candidate Forum for Townwide Candidates. On behalf of both our teams, Housie and I appreciate you making time on this beautiful Saturday morning to engage in this important civic activity. This candidate forum is extra special for us as it's the first time we are organizing with CALex. We were delighted to grab this opportunity to collaborate, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with the CALex team. One of the things that made it easy was the fact that both organizations value civic engagement and are focused on facilitating it in a non-partisan way. I'm so glad that we joined hands this time. Housie, go ahead.
Thank you, Winita. I agree with you. CALex volunteers are delighted to work with iGiG together to host this meeting. This is a great opportunity for community members to know the candidate, know the challenges we are facing, and the candidate take on those issues. To start, let's have a quick introduction to the speaker and candidate. We have Representative Michelle Sicolo, Select Board candidate Susie Berry and Joe Peddle, Moderator candidate Deborah Brown, School Committee candidate Arlene J., Larry Freeman, and Salvador Jaramillo, Planning Board candidate Bob Peters. For today's agenda, we'll start with a brief note by Representative Michelle Sicolo. Then go to the main topics, including moderated Q&A, audience questions, and closing statement. After that, we will announce names of TMM candidate. And before we end, we will take pictures and have an informal dialogue. So stay tuned. So stay till the end. Each candidate will have up to 1.5 minutes to answer each question. For audience questions, it will be 1 minute to answer. Audience members, please send your questions in the chat window to Mona Loy. Also specify who or what committee to answer your questions. We will have two forum moderators today, Rina Cordon-Bearer and Yuno Wu. Our timekeeper is Shefali Worma, who is a high school senior. And when candidate answer the question, when you have 15 seconds left, Shefali will show the red card to give a reminder. Now it's my honor to introduce Representative Michelle Sicolo to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much to iGiG and CALex for hosting this important forum. It's absolutely inspirational to see all of the candidates and to see all of you here today to listen and learn about what goes on in our local government. Folks may know that in the beginning part of my career, I served as a municipal employee for 20 years, helping to manage a town in Metro West. And what I learned through that process is that the local government, the level of government that is most meaningful, has such a profound impact on all of our lives. This is where the vast majority of our services are delivered to residents, things like our schools and our police and fire and our DPW and our library. So many wonderful things that get delivered through the local government. And the truth of it is, we are the democracy, right? At this level, it's our volunteers, just individual citizens like all of you that step up to make it happen at the local level. And I'd like to think sometimes when there's so much vitriol going on, at the national level, I like to look and see what we're doing here and see how wonderful our government functions because of all of you, because of our volunteers. So my hat's off to all the candidates. They are doing this without any pay. Some of you may wonder, you know, what does the select board get paid? What does the school committee get paid? Absolutely nothing, just hours and hours of their lives that they dedicate. They might get a parking spot here or there, but that's about the only perk. And Susie's shaking her head no, even that perk is gone, right? So, you know, this is important work that they do. And you all are in a critical role to help make the decisions about who should represent us and who should serve us. So I also want to just make a note that when you see government not functioning at the federal level, it's so important for us to remember how important civic education is for our young people. And those of you who are participating in town meeting have opportunities potentially to get involved as volunteers for things like mock town meeting, which is an absolute wonderful training ground for young people. This is what helps make sure that those that follow in our footsteps will do so and serve with honor and distinction and understand the importance of civility and courtesy in the public discourse. And I think when we have opportunities as elected officials, it's really important to reach out to young people and bring them along and make sure that they believe in their government again. We need to restore the trust in our government. And I know when I watch what happens at the local level, that's when I feel, yes, we are absolutely going to be fine because we're doing it right. So with that, I am just thrilled to hear the candidates today. And again, my gratitude to iGiG and CALex for sponsoring this. I think it's terrific that you merged your forum. As someone who's gone through a lot of elections and know how incredibly hard it is to do, you know, 10 forums sometimes, it's really nice to have a critical mass. Oh, and I did have one final thought. There are some open town meeting seats. And while it's too late to actually pull papers to get nominated to be on the ballot, you can do a write-in candidacy. So please, we do need some additional town meeting members in some of the precincts. And I hope that those of you who are listening today who might just be learning about local government and might be interested, might put your name forward. So with that, thank you all and have a great morning. Take care.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was really terrific. Thank you for that information and for also recognizing us. I'm now going to turn over to the candidates. And I'm going to ask each of the candidates to please introduce themselves. If you could introduce yourself, talk about your personal and professional credentials, talk about why you're qualified for the position, and what is motivating you to run for that particular office. That'd be great. So I'm going to call out the name of one candidate at a time. And if you could, you know, take about a minute and a half to introduce yourself and talk to the audience about why you are the best person for the role. So I'm going to start with school committee, and Eileen, if I could turn it over to you to please introduce yourself.
We make sure all the candidates unmute.
Yeah, I had to wait until I was able to be unmuted, so thank you. So yes, so my name is Eileen J, and I'm running for re-election to the school committee. I have 6 years of experience on the school committee, having served 2 years as chair and 2 years as vice chair. I bring the experience, leadership, stability, and proven capability needed to guide our schools as we face the challenges ahead. I've lived in Lexington for 27 years, raised 2 children who went to K-12 and LPS, and have been actively involved in our schools for 24 years. Professionally, I'm an educator with a doctorate in education from Harvard who has worked as an educational researcher and is passionate about education. With the important work ahead, experience matters. The complexity of school committee work requires a depth of knowledge and an array of skills that I've developed over the past 6 years. My extensive knowledge of our school system is vital for making the decisions that put students first, but also requires a thorough understanding of many other factors that impact student learning, such as retaining teachers and staff, providing adequate building space, and budgetary concerns. We have exciting work ahead, such as developing a K-12 diversity, equity, inclusion curriculum that includes the histories of all groups and creates a culture of belonging. We also face challenges such as planning for a new renovated high school and maintaining in-person learning safely as the pandemic evolves. As a school committee member, I keep the emotional and mental health of students as a top priority in all decisions. Since 2008, I've actively worked on reducing student stress and championed work on mental health in our schools and town. I truly understand how difficult pandemic learning has been for students and families, and I'm saddened by its impacts on our students' social lives and mental health. We must find ways to support our students to sustain their social, emotional, and mental well-being. I'm excited to continue my work on the school committee, and I ask your vote on Monday, March 7th.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thanks a lot. If I could now turn to Larry, school committee, please.
Yes. Thank you to CALex and to iGiG for hosting this morning's candidate forum. My name is Larry Freeman, and I am running for school committee because I believe education is one of the greatest equalizers in this country. I have been extensively involved in our schools and our town, which will allow me to hit the ground running as a new school committee member. I have 2 children in our school system. I am a member of the Harrington and Clark School Site Councils. I'm a board member of the Clark PTO. I am also a member of the LPS Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Input Team, and a member of the Lexington Human Rights Committee, and a proud town meeting member and vice chair of Precinct 1, as well as co-chair of the School Health Advisory Council. These roles in school and town have given me many opportunities to really listen to the concerns and perspectives from parents and students. As a professional project manager in the fields of finance and technology, my expertise is looking at short and long-term goals and the resource management needed to reach those goals. I have a listen and learn mentality, a collaborative approach, and the passion to stand up and use my voice to ask difficult questions. Perspectives and experience matter as a school committee member. Again, my name is Larry Freeman. I ask you to cast a vote for me for school committee on March 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks so much. If I could now turn it over to Salvador for school committee, please.
So you are on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on set.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank CALex and iGiG for hosting this forum. I'm honored to be here. My name is Salvador Jaramillo. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 5. I serve as a clerk on the TMA Executive Action Committee. I'm a LHS 2020 graduate and current student at Harvard University, where I study molecular and cellular biology as a pre-medical student. I'm running for the Lexington School Committee because I believe we can benefit from a fresh perspective. Our students are currently facing many challenges given the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a recent graduate and product of the Lexington Public Schools, I feel that I'm in a unique position to speak on the experience and issues that they currently face. We must do everything we can to provide the tools and resources necessary to keep our students in the classroom. This means being preemptive and proactive in our approach to COVID-19, the curriculum, and the budget. I researched the effects of COVID-19 on immunocompromised individuals at Massachusetts General Hospital. Unfortunately, the virus is here to stay, and we need a plan to adapt and overcome this reality. Lexington is a community that leads by example, and as a school committee member, I want to do my part in maintaining that reputation. There are a lot of things that we do great here in Lexington, but there remains a lot we can do better on. We need someone on the school committee who understands what it means to be on the other side of the classroom, to provide insight to how well the policies and spending decisions we make actually affect students on a daily basis. I understand today's technological society, and I know what our students need to be competitive for their future. As an older brother and mentor to many Lexington students, I care about these issues not only because they directly affected me, but because I understand what is at stake for the future generation of our community and nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Salvador. Thank you. If I could now turn to Joe for select board, please.
Morning. Hello. I am Joe Pato, and I'm running for election to the Select Board. Thank you to iGiG and CALex for hosting this forum, and to those of you attending live or viewing the recording. My priorities as a member of the Select Board are to pursue environmental sustainability and climate action, wise fiscal policy, and public safety and quality public services for all. I believe in an inclusive community where all individuals have the opportunity to participate and feel that their contributions are valued and are addressed thoughtfully. During the ongoing pandemic, not holding in-person meetings or camps. Instead, office hours via Zoom, and we'll be happy to schedule special sessions with individuals or groups. Please visit my website at joepato.org for information about me, how to attend my office hours, and how to schedule a meeting. It's been my honor to serve Lexington on the board since 2013, and I hope you'll give me one of your votes on March 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. If I can now turn to Susie for Select Board, please.
Thank you, Rena. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to iGiG and CALex for hosting this candidates forum this morning, and to everyone who's attending. On Monday, March 7th, 2022, I'm seeking re-election to the Lexington Select Board for a 3-year term. I believe that local government is where we have the opportunity to make a tangible difference, a difference that we can actually see and be a part of, and where we can demonstrate to future generations how democracy works. I was first elected to the board in November of 2014 to fill a 16-month term, and was re-elected to full 3-year terms in 2016 and again in 2019. During that time, I served as chairman of the board for 3 years. I'm currently chair of the Carey Memorial Library Board of Trustees, and also represent Lexington on the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Special Commission for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, and also serve as a member or liaison to several town boards and committees. I've been involved in town government for nearly 30 years, as well as have been active in the schools, scouting, and at St. Bridget Church. With your support, I will continue working toward the goals we all share, balancing Lexington's tax burden with the need to modernize aging local infrastructure, addressing the need for affordable and attainable housing, not only for those with limited means, but for those who may wish to downsize to stay in the town they love, embracing smart economic development in the commercial, industrial, and retail sectors, transitioning Lexington to a more sustainable energy use and environmental practices, ensuring that Lexington is a welcoming, safe, and inclusive community for all. Professionally, I'm the Director of Operations for Hancock Church here in Lexington. I understand budgets and working in a volunteer collaborative environment. I grew up in Lexington. My husband and I have 2 grown children who went through the schools. My husband is employed by the town of Lexington Little Police Department, so if you follow our meetings, you'll occasionally see me recuse on items related to police. I value your concerns. I'm a strong listener. I respectfully ask for your vote on Monday, March 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. If I could turn to Rob for the planning board, please.
Thank you, Rena, and thank you, CALex and iGiG for hosting this morning. And thanks to all of you for turning out on this Saturday morning to join us. One of the opportunities from having a Zoom meeting is that I'm actually with family out of town this weekend, and it's the advantage of being on Zoom that I'm able to join you. I'm Bob Peters, and I've served on the Lexington Planning Board for the past 3 years, and I'm a candidate for re-election. I've lived in Lexington for almost 20 years, the past 19 at Drummerboy Homes in Precinct 7. And prior to being elected to the planning board, I served for 12 years as a member of and the governor's appointee to the Board of Commissioners of the Lexington Housing Authority. On the planning board, plays a critical role in our community, since the results of our decisions may well end up being built in concrete and be part of our community for the next 70 or 100 years. The planning board will be busy over the next 3 years. I am especially excited about the work ahead. We are nearing the conclusion of the development of the new comprehensive plan for the town. The prior plan is approaching 20 years old and is overdue for revision. The board will be holding a series of meetings over the next weeks and months, so I encourage folks to check those out and provide your opinions and comments. We need to approach the comprehensive plan as the community's opportunity to plan before development of whatever sort is upon us. Look forward to working on these and many other issues that come before the planning board, and I ask for your vote on Monday, March 7th. I'm Robert Peters.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for joining us from outside Lexington. Thank you. If I could turn it over to Deborah for town meeting moderator, please.
Thank you. Thank you to CALex and to iGiG for organizing this event. My name's Deborah Brown. I'm a 26-year resident of Lexington. My husband David and I raised our 2 children here, sent them through the Lexington Public Schools from kindergarten through high school graduation. For the last 22 years, I've been involved in Lexington's town government and town meeting in particular. I've held the position I'm currently seeking, that of town moderator, for 13 years, 7 years as a town meeting member, and for those same 9 years finance committees. I'm running unopposed for my 14th term as moderator. Moderator terms, by the way, are 1 year, not 3 years like the rest of the townwide position. And in the role of moderator, I'm the parliamentarian for the town's legislative branch for town meeting. I also appoint all of the members of the town's 2 finance committees, the Appropriation Committee and the Capital Expenditures Committee. I love the institution of town meeting. I have enormous respect for the town meeting members who commit their time and expertise to being a legislative body. It's really a privilege to serve in role, especially during this disruption of COVID and the challenges of facilitating a remote meeting format. I look forward to this conversation today, and I ask for your
questions that have been sent to participants beforehand. And I'll turn it over to you for the first question, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, all the candidates. Introduction and also letting us know your running motivation and the statement. Our first question is for school committee candidates, Elaine, Larry, and Sylvander. The question is from your perspective, what's your definition of an excellent education? And where do you think Lexington Public School should focus its resource on? So for this question, let's begin with Elaine, then Larry, and last is Sylvander. Each of you will have 1.5 minutes. Elaine, please go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I believe that an excellent education provides learning opportunities that will challenge students at all levels and abilities. No matter what level a student's at, we should be offering teaching that challenges them from where they are so that students can maximize their full potential, whether they're doing it at the highest level, middle level, or lower levels. There are people who say that we should eliminate some of the high-level courses like AP and Honors or Top Performing Arts Group because they believe that it drives stress. But I don't agree with that. I think students learn their best and are most engaged if they're working at the edge of their ability, where they're constantly striving to do better. And I think that's true at every level. To me, an excellent education also means teaching for the future. The purpose of education is to cultivate the knowledge and skills for our students to be successful adults. That means teaching them how to think critically, to be able to apply what they know to new problems, determine when information or data is reliable, and to collaborate with others. These are skills that they'll need in the workplace and in their lives. We also want them to be caring adults and good citizens. School is a place to learn about compassion and caring, how to get along with others, and understand and embrace differences in ability, culture, and background. Education lays the foundation for our children to become compassionate adults, engaged citizens, and global citizens of our world.
Oh, thank you so much, Elaine. Larry, your turn. Larry, can you hear me? Could you please unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. An excellent education is providing students with challenging academic courses of study that instill critical thinking and a systematic approach to problem solving. Academic courses that would allow them to be competitive in college and beyond. An excellent education will ensure every student reaches their full potential. Additionally, an excellent education will include mental health support and stress management tools to students. As co-chair of the School Health Advisory Council, we directly address this issue by listening to students and creating programs and support to meet their needs. When students are mentally healthy, they are better learners and will be productive members of society and informed citizens. An excellent education is inclusive. A single perspective or single source would not prepare our graduates for a global society. Our students should see themselves and others reflected in the curriculum so their identities are affirmed and celebrated. LPS should focus its resources on stress management and mental health support for students. This has been an ongoing issue, but due to the pandemic, this is now an acute problem that can no longer be ignored. We must continue to develop innovative solutions to allow students to learn in a healthy mind and body environment. I'm proud to be playing a leading role in working to ensure we provide mental health support, stress management tools, and social development skills to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last candidate, Sylvander, could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, yes. Well, the way I would answer that question is that our schools have to be first innovative and adapt to the times. I think that is something that's very important. There's a reason why Lexington is a leader in education, and it's important that we maintain that reputation moving forward. A good education prepares students not only for their careers, but it also prepares them to be citizens within our own community and society. In a technologically advanced society, we need to make sure students have the necessary math or science background they need to be successful and competitive in their future. And I think that we have done a lot to try to work on that at the high school. I think one of the greatest examples I have is that right now at Lexington High School, we're expanding the curriculum, we're expanding electives. And I think one thing I was very excited for when I was looking through the curriculum books was that the school is improving its computer classes, right? It's computer science classes. And I think that, you know, incorporating languages like Python and R and different science-based technologies is very important for the future of students. And so when we look at mental health, when we look at emotional health, when we look at all the things that a student faces and deals with, both at home and at school, it's important that we always take a look at how we can improve and how we can adapt to the times. And I think that this is something that we have to re-examine, right, as a community, as a school. And it's something that we always have to keep working on because it never stops. Lexington competes with some very good school districts, right? We're surrounded by other towns and cities that really care about education just as much as we do. And it's important that when we spend money, when we make policy decisions, and when we make decisions as a community, that we keep that in mind and we work on it. So as a school committee member, I hope to work on that as a person who experienced the Lexington perspective. And I believe that I'm the best person to fill that role. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all of our school committee candidates. Rina will facilitate the second question.
Thank you. The next question is for the select board. So the question is, during the fall special town meeting, Article 10 to ban on gas-powered leaf blowers caused quite a stir, and the town will have a referendum, which is a town-wide vote in the upcoming election, which we haven't had in a long time. What is your view on the referendum to overturn Article 10, ban on gas leaf blowers? So I'll first turn to Joe and then Susie.
So you are on mute.
Joe, you're still muted. We can't hear you.
Great, thank you. My fault. In brief, I support upholding town meeting's vote and intend to vote yes in the referendum. At town meeting, I abstained on this vote because I wanted to see the depth of support without risking tipping the result. This issue has been brewing for many years. The Noise Committee was working on this 4 years ago when I temporarily replaced Michelle Sicolo as liaison to the committee when she was elected to the State House. Last year, a similar article setting time and seasonal limits on noise produced by landscaping was withdrawn to allow more time for discussion. Prior to the town meeting vote, I contacted several landscaping equipment manufacturers to understand how they measured noise production for their equipment. I learned that they sell different models in Europe where regulations require them to meet noise production limitations. The failure to do so here is simply because of a lax regulatory environment. The Article 10 provides a 3-year grace period for phasing in quieter techniques for clearing leaf debris by commercial and municipal landscapers. It allows a 4th year for individuals clearing their own lawns. Article 10 does not ban general landscaping equipment, only gas leaf blowers at the end of the grace period. These devices are extraordinarily noisy and produce unhealthy fumes, particulate matter, and noise levels. I support this transition.
Thank you, Joe. Susie, I'll turn it over to you to answer the question, please.
Thank you. Chapter 215 of the Acts of 1929 established representative town meeting in Lexington, and Section 8 within Chapter 215 outlined the process by which a referendum vote can be called following a vote of town meeting. For the most part, votes at town meeting are usually non-controversial. However, there are times when residents may feel a vote taken by a town meeting may not be in line with the community at large, and they'd like to have the entire community weigh in and have their voices heard on an issue. And the referendum process outlined in Section 8 of Chapter 215 allows for that to happen. And while we have not had a referendum vote in the last 20 years, there have been several spread over the last 93 years, and you can find a listing of those on the town website. As far as the referendum question that will be put before the voters on Monday, March 7th, I do believe in doing what we can as soon as we can and understand the immediacy in acting on climate change. However, the bylaw that was ultimately passed by town meeting in November was significantly flawed, in my opinion. The select board went into town meeting with an understanding we would be supporting the reduction in hours and seasonal restrictions, and more work would be done on a phase out that would be brought to a future town meeting. Town meeting chose to go another direction that night and offered a substitute motion. And in the process, the result we got that evening, yes, may have been democracy in action, but my opinion was not our best work in terms of a clear implementable bylaw. Rewriting articles on the floor of town meeting rarely brings good results. I was in favor of the original motion. I was also in favor of indefinite postponement, but ultimately I did not vote in favor of Article 10 at the special town meeting. I encourage you to read what is in the approved bylaw carefully. As I read it, we are no longer calling upon our town departments to phase out the use of gas-powered equipment, a place where we could really truly lead. Yes, they have been piloting some programs and do consider electric options in purchasing, but putting a specified phase out into a bylaw would send a much more powerful message. I encourage you to read the section about residential use. The ban is for a resident on their own property. So does that mean a resident could go clear another resident's property and that would be okay and still retain their gas leaf blower? And finally, the enforcement section is still a mystery to me as to which town department will be charged with enforcement and what additional tools they may need in order to enforce the bylaw. Some will say what was approved was fine and we can simply update it at a future town meeting to correct the language, which is a true statement. However, I feel on a topic as important as this, we needed to get it right from the very beginning, not only in the wording of the bylaw, but also ensuring that we have heard the voices of the entire community. So on Monday, March 7th, the community will have a chance to weigh in. I welcome that, and that is truly democracy in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is for planning board candidate, Rob. The question is about dense development. The dense development puts a lot of pressure on our school system. Do you think that the planning board should consider this when making decisions? And another question is, would 55 plus communities be a solution to increase the housing supply while not putting too much pressure on the school system? You have 1.5 minutes to answer the question. Rob, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, and my apologies for that. And thank you for the question. Impact on the school system is one of many considerations that the planning board should consider. However, I think that 55 plus communities are exclusionary by their nature, and in general, I'm not a fan. In certain circumstances, for people at a certain phase of their lives, it may be a good option. 55 plus communities are not going to solve the housing crisis that we're in Lexington, in Massachusetts, and nationwide. This past week, there was a report by the economist Steve Ratner on MSNBC that indicated one of the results of the housing bubble meltdown in 2008 has been that the recovery has been marked by insufficient housing production nationwide and that we have a significant shortage of housing. This is not just a Lexington problem, but we are living this problem. One factor to keep in mind also is that a large contributor to our housing values is the quality of our school system. It is part of the reason that people want to live here in Lexington. Lexington provides a high quality educational experience for its young people, and that is a great thing. But as our life situations change, at some point, either for ourselves or our heirs, we will want to look for an exit strategy, and our property values will play an important role in those decisions. A strong and desirable school system is a key component of those property values. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Rena, your turn.
The next question is for Deborah, the town meeting moderator. The question is, what are your thoughts on having a hybrid annual town meeting or special town meeting?
Thank you for the question. So far during the pandemic, we've conducted 2 annual town meetings remotely and 2 special town meetings remotely. And I feel these have really been very successful experiences. The legislature has now extended our authority to conduct remote meetings until July 15. I haven't heard yet that the governor signed it, but I'm sure that he will. So we will have that option should we choose to use it for the upcoming annual town meeting that's scheduled to begin Monday, March 28th. Those experiences have revealed some real advantages to remote participation that we might want to consider replicating in the future for reasons beyond the present pandemic. Remote town meeting removes some barriers to access for those with limited mobility, for parents with young children who would otherwise need to arrange childcare, and for members traveling for work. In the future, a hybrid meeting might provide us the best of both worlds, the community and camaraderie of an in-person meeting with the option of remote participation for those who choose it. Now, there will be logistical and technological challenges, but I think these can eventually be overcome, and we'll also need legislative authority to do this. But I can envision a hybrid meeting where everyone uses the same system to queue up or vote, so probably on your computer or your cell phone, and then on the screen behind me will broadcast what everyone sees and hears. There are certainly important details to work out, but with time, the technological options will improve and expand with or without us. And we should approach these developments with an open mind and an eye towards how they might remove barriers and increase access while preserving important procedural and collegial aspects of our meeting. And I look forward to exploring this.
Thank you, Deborah.
Our next question is for school committee again. It's about the school budget. The school budget increased 3.8% from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22, with the largest inflation number, which was 7%. Do you see a significant jump in the school year budget in the next few years? And this time we will revise the order of candidates who answer the questions. We will let Larry first, then Sylvander, and Eileen last. Larry, please go ahead. By the way, each of you will have 1.5 minutes for the question. Larry, please go ahead.
All right, thank you. It is no secret that there have been a shortage of school staff and PPE, and that alone has led to increased costs. Add to that the struggles with the return to school, including students who need increased services after school closures and remote learning. Inflation likely will impact the LPS budget. Knowing this, we must be fiscally responsible and think about short and long-term impacts of every decision. My profession requires I think ahead and prepare for the unknown. Once approval is received from the MSBA on Lexington's proposal for a new or renovated high school, my professional experience will be invaluable. The school committee has an obligation to ask questions and be good stewards of Lexington's tax dollars. I promise you that I will ask questions about LPS choices, put my professional skills to use, and really think about the impact of choices being made. Wasting money hurts all students in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Sylvander, your second.
Yes. Well, the school budget increases every year, and there are multiple reasons for that. Inflation is just one of the reasons why. But I think one of my main focuses as a school committee member will be sustainability and affordability. For me, this is something that's really personal to me. I have experience, being homeless in this district. I lived in basements and attics. I worked 2 part-time jobs to help my parents pay rent so that I could stay and finish my education here in Lexington. And it was very hard, right? And I think this is a problem that has inspired me to run for school, but a problem that has inspired me to run for town meeting. And it's something that I think we really need to work on as a community. We say we have a lot of discussions, but I really think that the motive, right, that we have to have is to have actionable steps that make this happen. The school budget makes up well over 74% of the town budget and is directly attached to this cost of living. We need to keep Lexington affordable to people of all backgrounds. And it really goes with our goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we really have not done enough to prepare for that, especially as we look at larger capital projects that will keep the cost of living very high, especially with the new high school project, which we do not know if we're going to get approval by the MSBA. And we have to wait until March 2nd to understand where we are at the process. I firmly believe we can make smart and effective decisions on spending without compromising our quality of education. But it requires taking a look at how we approach discretionary spending and having conversation with our community, teachers, and staff. And so this is the perspective I would bring as a school committee member.
Thank you so much. Elaine, your turn, please. Hi, Elaine, could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, are you able to hear me now?
Thank you. Yes,
okay,
we can.
sorry about that. No, I don't think there will actually be a significant jump in the school budget in the next few years. That's because the percentage increase in the budget is not tied to inflation. It's tied to the financial picture of the town in any given year. The town budget is constructed based on the revenue that's projected to come in for the year. And after some set-asides, the revenue is allocated in a split between the schools and the town and the municipal side. The amount of the increase above the previous year's budget is determined by how much money is available in that year's budget. It's not a fixed percentage. There have been some years in the recent past before 2017 where we were actually in a sort of better financial picture with a little bit more free cash available due to some fortunate circumstances at the time. So at that time, some of the increases were more like 5% or 7%. But in recent years, the financial picture is somewhat tighter than in those times, not for any reason that's bad. It's just that we don't have as much freedom as we had in the past, but we're doing fine and our finances are managed well. The municipal government and school department work together on our town finances. We are the stewards of the financial health of our town, and we work on doing it responsibly. And we do need to operate within our means and operate within the revenue that the town actually has. So I expect that the coming years will be somewhat similar to what we have now, and I think it's unlikely to see significant changes in the yearly increase in the coming year, but I think we are doing well, and we will continue managing that in the years going forward.
Thank you. It's good news, Elaine. Rina, your turn.
Thank you. The next question is for the select board. The question is, will you support measures that will allow for more multi-unit housing? What specific measures do you think Lexington can take? And Susie, if you could start first, please.
Thank you. So yes, we absolutely need to increase our multi-unit housing in Lexington. Housing prices, availability of affordable and attainable housing, the types of housing, the desire to have a more diverse community, the desire that if our children choose to want to live in town, in their younger years, or our parents to live in town or to stay in town, our proximity to 128 and Route 2, Boston and Cambridge, we're an MBTA serviced community, are all parts of this equation. However, what is it going to take? This is the $10 million question. There is a larger conversation that needs to happen. It's long overdue. We have been talking this talk for a long time. We have not yet walked the walk. And along those lines, good work has been happening with our comprehensive plan and on several of our boards and committees, including the recently formed Affordable Housing Trust Study, the Housing Partnership Board, and to have a large conversation about housing. We need to get all the stakeholders in the room, and we need to identify what our concerns are. What are we afraid of? We typically hear, if we build more housing, it's going to bring children to our schools. We need to sit down, identify what all the issues are, and find a true path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe, if I could turn it to you, please.
Thank you. Yes, I support developing zoning changes to allow more and denser multi-unit housing. Of course, I'll have to see specific measures brought to town meeting before pledging any support for that measure, but I'm fully in favor of the general direction. Over the past year, Lexington has begun to explore how we could respond to the legislation passed last year that requires MBTA communities to provide denser housing near transit stations and bus corridors. We are looking at how this might help revitalize areas like East Lexington or the center and other mixed-use areas along our transit lines. One of the key issues that the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee has heard from residents all over town is the lack of diverse housing. Residents are looking for housing that allows seniors to downsize and remain in Lexington. Others are looking for a variety of housing that allows their young adult children to live in town, or where more municipal workers can live. I'm glad to see that Susie has heard the same thing, even though she hasn't been a member of the advisory committee. And it's something that we need to address. Change is always challenging. Finding the right balance will take effort and creativity. Nonetheless, change is needed in the region and in Lexington. I support creating more housing options in Lexington.
Thank you, Joe. Over to you.
This question is for our town meeting moderate candidate, Deborah. Deborah, you have been moderator for years and you have just finished your 14th term. You have done such wonderful job at each town meeting in the past. So our question is, what specific qualifications, trainings, or experience does one need to become a moderate in town meeting in Lexington? Deborah, please unmute.
Thank you. So I will simply speak from my own experience. I found 3 things enormously helpful. The first was the example of my predecessor, Marge Batten, who held the office for 22 years with absolute mastery. It was just, watching the master at work. That was incredibly helpful. And she also was very generous with her time when she decided not to run again and knew that I was running. She took me under her wing and tutored me. So that number one, incredibly helpful. Second was my own nearly a decade experience as an elected town meeting member. It's really critical to know what it's like to sit on the other side of the podium. And then finally, the wise counsel of fellow moderators throughout the state. We have a state association, the Massachusetts Moderators Association, of which I'm a member and a board member, and I'm a past president. And they've provided a lot of education for me and for other moderators throughout the state. And also just really thoughtful, generous feedback from Lexington's town meeting members. So beyond that, patience and a sense of humor and real respect for the members in the institution are things that have helped me through the really difficult moments. So thank you for the question.
Oh, thank you so much, Deborah. Rena, your turn, please.
The next question is for Rob from the planning board. The question is, the town has been trying to discourage the construction of very large houses. However, large houses are popping up everywhere. What is your view on this?
Thank you, Rena. And I guess first thing is, as part of the question, I think many of us in town have been discouraged by the construction of very large houses, but I'm really not aware of any attempts by the town as an entity to discourage that type of construction. Property owners have rights and can and do build what the zoning allows. And as we know zoning is controlled by town meeting with recommendations from the planning board. But last year, the Colonial Times ran a piece about the issue, and they quoted many local real estate agents who said that homeowners, especially in a hot real estate market, would achieve higher sales prices if they put their properties on the market rather than selling to a developer. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. Sellers would benefit from higher prices. The community would benefit from maintaining some of the affordable mid-range housing, such as some of the mid-20th century capes that are spread around town, and unfortunately are disappearing at a fairly rapid rate. Many of these homes are in reasonably good condition and certainly could be brought up to date, but they are smaller than what's being constructed today. These can and should be great starter homes for the next generation. We'll be dealing with this issue as we deal with the MBTA community's requirements that others have mentioned. And this is a conversation that I expect will be going through as we consider adoption of the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Over to you.
Thank you. This is our third question for the school committee candidates. It's about mental health issue. The question is, do you support having a mental health day similar to that of Arlington to help our students struggling during the pandemic? This time, we will also revise the order of candidates who answer the question. Now we have the Sylvander first, Eileen second, and Larry last. 1.5 minutes for each one. Sylvander, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, of course, I would always support a mental health day. I think acknowledging the stress and pressures our students carry with them as Lexington students is very important. Actually, every day should be a mental health day, right? And I think that as a Lexington student myself, one of the things that I was introduced to in one of my first years at the high school was a student suicide, right? I think people have to understand that even before the pandemic, students face a lot of pressure and a lot of stresses. And it's something that we've worked on over the years, right? But now that we've added the pandemic, there are a lot more issues now that are on the backs of our students today. And I think that it's something that I have a perspective on. I lived it, right? I really believe that seeing it is very different than experiencing it yourself. And I'm here to say that at the high school, there is drug use, there is cheating going on in our schools, and it's been getting worse as a result of the pandemic, right? And I think that this is a perspective that's not talked a lot about, right? And I think as a student who's a first generation student and a Korean American, it's something that I relate to and that I can really understand. And what is important is that we are meeting the needs of all of our students and making sure that we're giving them everything they need to be successful. And I think tackling mental health issues is not easy, but I firmly believe that it'll take multiple perspectives. And it's important that we have someone on the school committee who understands the Lexington experience, right? Currently, we don't have a single member of the school committee member who attended the Lexington Public Schools. And I feel that we need that voice and experience on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen, your turn.
Yes, thank you. Student mental health is something I've cared about for a very long time. For 14 years, I've worked on student stress and was the lead author of a report to reduce student stress and advocated for addressing mental health in schools in town. A number of years ago, I actually collaborated with IAL and others to organize efforts around Asian student mental health. I think something like Arlington's Wellness Day is a good idea. I think it would be an opportunity for students and staff to stop and acknowledge the stress, anxiety, and depression and mental health impacts of the pandemic. I think it's very important for students to know that they're not alone in these feelings. And I think a day like that could make students aware of services like social workers and counselors who are available to help. But I think it takes more than one day to address these mental health impacts. I think some of the things that we could be doing as a school system is to find better ways to identify students who need help. We could possibly train teachers to recognize signs of stress or anxiety and help the students get the services they need. We could bring in experts who know about the particular ways that the pandemic affects student mental health to do presentations for educators and parents. Hopefully, we can find ways to bring back more chances for students to socialize with their friends in person, because I think bringing back those personal interactions, I think, is something that will help students feel less isolated and bring back more happiness and joy in their school lives and their lives in general.
Thank you so much. Larry, your turn, please. Larry, could you hear? Yes, we can hear you.
I would support a designated mental health wellness day. Mental health wellness day would be an opportunity to celebrate self-care and help remove stigma regarding mental health that are quite common in our community. Many students do not seek help because of that negative stigma. However, a designated day will not meet the needs of our students. I support adding mental health professionals and support staff dedicated to supporting specific mental health needs that our student body has. We should be prepared to adjust our approaches as mental health needs of our students change. We have to meet the needs of meet students where they are and provide impactful support. As a school committee member, I will support any proposal that are appropriate in meeting mental health needs, that include benchmarks, and that are flexible to ensure our objectives are achieved.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for all our school committee candidates. Rena, I will hand to you.
Thanks. So the next question is for the select board, and Joe, if you could answer first, and then Susie, we'll switch orders like you had mentioned earlier. The question is, since the MSBA process for the new LHS, is delayed, should the town invest in a planning effort of its own? Why or why not? Joe, if you could answer first, please.
Thank you. So I think there's a couple parts here. One is there may be positive news on the horizon. We know that we will be hearing from the MSBA shortly as to whether or not we'll be invited. So it may well be that this is moot. On the other hand, there are things that we as a community need to be doing anyway. We need to understand where a new or renovated high school can exist. And staff have been working to examine the central recreation and school campus for how resources can be reallocated in that location to make space for construction of a new building. So that process needs to happen no matter what we're doing, so that we can then get to the point of deciding how do you go forward with the school. Secondly, there's been a school master planning effort that's been going for several years and has produced a report and examined needs for and near-term options. That puts us in a good position for moving forward, thinking about what needs to be done. So my expectation is that we will be able to go forward with the MSBA rather than trying to build on our own. Building on our own would be an extraordinarily expensive undertaking. It would probably mean that we would have to cut back our ambitions for what a school would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie?
Thank you. So we understand from Dr. Hackett, our superintendent of schools, that Lexington's statement of interest for Lexington High School will be on the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA's, agenda on Wednesday, March 2nd for consideration. And we are hopeful for a positive vote. MSBA is the state agency that funds affordable, sustainable, and efficient schools in collaboration with local communities. In the past, this percentage that we get back from MSBA has ranged from the high 20s into the 40s. The Lexington High School project will be the largest municipal building project this town will have undertaken to date, both in scope, size, and cost to the taxpayers, and is going to require much of the community and all of the stakeholders. That being said, the key to the entire Lexington High School project is communication, collaboration, and transparency, and we need to ensure that we do not lose sight of that. I always believe in having a plan B, but I need more concrete information from the town and the school staff as to what the costs and challenges would look like in terms of budgeting and what the impact would be to the taxpayers. I am a member of the working group that Mr. Pato referred to, which is looking at the land and where the high school might possibly be sited. I will say privately, several people in the community have approached me to express their concern over the numbers that are floating about in the community and how we might fund this. Again, this gets back to communication and transparency. This is a collaborative process and we need to talk. And more importantly, we need to listen to move this project forward. Thank you.
The next question is for school committee. It's about Lexington Public School curriculum reform. While we all appreciate our school system effort and the curriculum reform, what have you personally done in your past work to advocate for this activity? And what can and should be the school committee be doing to support this effort? For answer this question, the order will be Larry first, Sylvander second, and Eileen last. 1.5 minutes for each one. Larry, please go ahead. Larry, could you hear us? Could you please unmute yourself?
Thank you. It was sad I had to wait for the host to give me permission to unmute. As a Black man growing up in the South, I know what it feels like to not see my identity affirmed in the curriculum. A generation later, I know my children and other students, including AAPI students, still feel this way. That's why I was proud to be an organizer of this year's MLK Community Conversation on Race, which addressed the need for an inclusive curriculum because all students deserve windows and mirrors to see themselves as well as others. I am a member of the LPS Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Input Team that engages with Johnny Cole and other LPS administrators, teachers, and students to incorporate the missing components of our current curriculum. We should be correcting our curriculum to include all identities, and we should continue to look at diversity of our teaching staff. To support inclusive curriculum efforts, the school committee should solicit input from the community and should require regular updates from the superintendent and establish benchmarks to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen, your turn, please.
Yes. Well, for years, I've advocated for reviewing the science course sequencing at the high school. That will be part of our larger discussions on graduation requirements. And in those discussions, I'd also like to explore more flexibility of choice for all course offerings so students can pursue their own interests. I think we can take a look at whether our math curriculum and reading programs offer the best teaching approaches at the elementary level. And I've supported a science curriculum that teaches the process of doing science in addition to content. Work we're doing on curriculum is the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion curriculum that will incorporate the histories and stories of all groups and create a culture of belonging. That means students will learn about the histories and contributions of Asian Americans, African Americans, Native Americans, and as well as other groups representing religious, gender, disability, and neurodiverse identities. It's important for our students to see themselves reflected in the curriculum, and it's important for these histories and stories to be integrated as part of our regular curriculum for all students. Another part of this curriculum will be to talk with students directly about understanding their own identities and cultures. Young students will start by learning about their own families and their own identities. They'll learn about other people's identities and how to understand differences and similarities among people. In later grades, they'll talk about accepting all people and recognizing inequalities and injustices and how to stand up for one another. All of this is really to create a true culture of belonging. That's one of our core values in our school district, and this is a way in working directly with our students and introducing this curriculum of having a school system and a community where we truly all belong.
Thank you so much. Rena, please go ahead.
Oh, well, I wasn't able to answer the question.
Oh, sorry. Savannah, please go ahead.
Yes, well, this is something that I passionately advocated for. I was a former class president. I worked with the Student Body Senate to talk to Dr. Stevens, talk to Dr. Hackett, as well as many of teachers and deans and counselors at the school on how looking at ways we can improve the curriculum, right? And also as to how it relates to mental health and inclusion. As I said before, I think we need to re-examine what is working and what's not working for our students, especially when it comes to things like the graduation requirements. For instance, I do not understand why I had to take so many physical education classes as an athlete, right? And I believe exposing our students to multiple subjects and fields is very important. However, I think it's also important to let our students have the freedom to pursue their passions and interests. If you want someone experienced with the Lexington curriculum, I'm the person with the most experience. I've lived it, right? I've taken the AP classes, I've taken the honors classes. And I think that one of the valuable abilities I have, right, especially as a tutor, is that not only do I know the material down to the units that every single class covers, but I also understand how the teachers approach the curriculum, right? And I think that's very important when we look at how we're going to change and improve classes for our students. We need to stress the importance that success is not defined by how well you're able to replicate the same grade or class load as your peers, but rather how you find your own path and pursue your own interests at Lexington High School. Tonight, I'm even actually hosting a curriculum night with the CALex youth, and I think we're having a panel of current and graduated Lexington High School students to introduce and provide advice to parents and students on selecting classes. And I think that that's something I invite all of you to attend, and I think that it's something to help our students figure out what they want to do and how they're going to do it. And so this is something I'm very passionate for and we'll work on as a school committee member.
Thank you so much, Savannah. I apologize again for skipping you. Rina, our next question.
Thanks, Aldo. So the next question is for the planning board. So Rob, the question is, what's your view on different types of government in Lexington, in particular, affordable housing, dense development, and commercial development? Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Rena. The gap in the housing market in Lexington is most acute in the affordable and workforce housing segment. So we encourage housing construction at a range of price points. And in order for this type of development to be attractive to a developer, we need to accept some greater density and/or consider other incentives for building in this market segment. But this is necessary for Lexington to be the diverse and inclusive community that we desire it to be. The town also faces several significant capital projects over the next several years, including a new police station and a high school project. We need to encourage commercial redevelopment in the commercial zones so that the cost of a new police station and high school would not be overly burdensome on residential property owners. We talk a lot about Hartwell and Lexington Center, but there are also opportunities in our neighborhood commercial zones, perhaps, where there are a number of mid-20th century single-story strip malls that could be redeveloped, perhaps with a higher value of real estate, with a mixed-use component that could be a positive contributor to our neighborhoods. And thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Over to you.
Now let's move to our additional questions. All those questions will allow you 1 minute to answer the question. The first question.
I'm sorry. I think we have 2 more questions. If I could go through that, please, Yuval, before we get to the additional questions. So if you could, if I could just ask 1 more question and then.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So this is for the select board, and Susie, if you could start with you and then turn it over to Joe. The town has had a lot of conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and a DEI director has been hired. What impactful changes can we expect in the short term and the long term? Susie, you first.
Thank you, Rena. So yes, the town hired a DEI director who came on board about 7 or 8 months ago. And she has been working hand in hand with all of our senior managers and department heads. She played a key role in our police chief search and the ultimate hiring of a permanent police chief. She has been reviewing job descriptions for jobs across the board in terms from DPW laborer jobs all the way up through department head positions. She has done regular reporting to the select board as to what her goals are. She's in the process of developing some policies and manuals that she'll be sharing with the staff. She's also been a part of there's so much on her plate that it's really hard to keep prioritized. And she's also been reaching out to different boards and committees and facilitating some of the work with the Human Rights Committee, among others.
Okay. Thank you, Susie. Jill?
So Susie pretty much covered what's going on. I would add that she has also, our new equity officer, has revitalized or reinstituted a citizen committee to look at issues of diversity and equity. This is something that we've had in place a few times, but hadn't been meeting for a while. So she is restating its goals and bringing it back together. I think we've had a lot of success in the past with getting community engagement and having elected members of the board be in close contact with different cultural and ethnic groups in town. And she is taking that same idea and bringing it forward to other activities. So I'm very hopeful that we will have a stronger inclusive community as we go forward with the fruits of her work.
Thank you, Joe. And I'll turn it over to you for the prepared question on row 17 for Deborah.
Yeah. Thank you. This question is for town meeting moderator, Deborah. What do you see as the single most important opportunity for improvement in Lexington town government? You have 1.5 minutes to answer the question. Deborah, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I have to focus obviously on my very narrow area of responsibility. And so in that capacity, I'm focused on two things, really with a laser focus. And the first is ensuring that town meeting process is fair, collegial, and welcoming, not intimidating, especially for new members and for the public. And then second, doing my part as the appointing authority for the town's 2 finance committees to bring a diverse range of viewpoints and life experiences to the table. In addition to those two, the pandemic has really gotten me thinking a lot about the future of our meeting, specifically what formats, what procedures, what technological tools we might use to support better decision-making, expand access and engagement, and generally enhance the town meeting experience. So I'd say those are now the 3 things that I'm most focused on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will next move to audience questions, and there's going to be 1 minute to answer each question. The first question is for the school committee. And we'll go, if Eileen could answer first, and then Larry, and then Salvador will go in that order. The question is, we've had a lot of turnover in elementary school administration in the past few years, and school committee engagement has dropped off due to limits to parent volunteer involvement in this pandemic. What role do you see for the school committee in helping rebuild school communities in the elementary school level? Eileen, if I could turn it over to you, please. Eileen, would it help me to read the question again? Or? Oh, can somebody help unmute Eileen, please?
Hello?
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was just back and forth of needing permission to unmute. So yes, I understand the concern. In particular, a few schools have had some principal turnover. You know, I think that it's always something, it's a little harder in the pandemic for parents to be involved in understanding what's going on in schools. I think it is a good thing for to be able to build community in these times, to have more two-way communication between the administration and the parent community. I think that the PTOs and PTAs can help in that sort of thing. But I think in general, I think the parent community wants to be reassured that learning is happening and that things are going well in the schools, and for them to be able to bring their concerns about students' mental health, how in-person learning is going. Even though we are back in person, I think there are still issues, particularly for some of the youngest students who have actually never been in-person school until this year. I think they need to start learning how to be in school, how to get along with other students, how to relate to one another. And I think that just takes work with our teachers and our administrators to help those students along.
Thank you, Eileen. Larry, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're all set.
All right, perfect. I think the school committee should definitely be more engaged with the community. I think our school committee members should have regular office hours or hours available to the community. I think the school committee can definitely help in rebuilding trust from the community and being more open and more transparent to the community. I think that the level of transparency that the community feels has been inadequate, and you know, just being open and positive, open and honest about what we have done, our successes and our failures, and looking at those successes and how we can turn those failures into successes as we move forward. I am a parent. I am engaged in our schools. I just know that meeting with parents is critical. I think being honest with parents is critical. That's why being part of the Harrington Site Council, being part of the Clark Site Council and Clark PTO has just been, given me valuable experience that I can bring to the school committee. I think those roles and any role in town and in the schools, it's that experience that any school committee member needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Salvador, over to you.
Yes, well, in many ways, this is why I'm motivated to do it, right? I think people ask me, why did I enter this race, right? And I believe that having contested elections is better for our democracy and also makes better school committee members, right? And I think it's important to have honest discussions to answer the tough questions, right? And I think that I'm very encouraged by the fact that more people are paying attention, right? And I think that this is something that we have to do across the board in the district with transparency and accountability. I think with elementary schools, it's very important that we give our students the fundamentals, right? Fundamentals in math, reading, language, anything that they need to be prepared to move on, right? To middle school or a high school in Lexington. And so I think this is something that, I have 6 nieces and nephews, right? I see them often, and it's something that I understand the importance of. And I think that this is something that we have to have active discussions with parents, students, and administration in Lexington Public Schools. And that's what I will promise I will do as a school committee member.
Thank you, Salvador. Over to you.
The next question is for our select board candidates, Joe and Susie. This is a concern about the police chief selection process. With some citizens thought the current process was not transparent enough. For example, we do not see enough awareness of this citizen participation and there is not including the citizens in the swearing-in ceremony, and etc. What was the current process for this selection? And do you think if there is anything we can do to make it better? Jill, you first, and Susie, you second, please.
So the police chief is hired by the town manager, and the town manager sets the process. He did create panels for interviews, including citizen participation. With regard to the swearing in ceremony, that was a very small ceremony held indoors. I did not attend either because it was, I avoid going indoors in places where we're going to have a number of people. But I hear the question that's coming from the community about how do we get better communication about how things go forward, how we reach out. And I think that's something that is a continually improvement process, and providing feedback to the manager indicating that members of the community felt that they weren't adequately consulted for this will help improve the process moving forward.
Thank you so much, Joe. Susie, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I think Joe covered it all, and I have to be very careful what I say here because my husband does work for the police department, and so I was recused on this particular issue when it was before the board. That being said, I did have I was allowed the opportunity to attend the swearing in. However, I was unable to due to a family illness. And I did feel sad that that was not able to take place in a much larger venue outside to include members of not only members of the community, but more members of the chief's family. And while I mean both his biological family, I mean his public safety family. Public safety truly, different chiefs, they need to be able to collaborate and see each other. Over the years of his career, 20+ careers, he's made a lot of good contacts and friends, and those people were not able to attend as well. So unfortunately, I can't give you any more of my opinion here, and I will leave it to Joe to transfer these comments back to the town manager. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Rita, wait for our next question.
Rita, we can't hear.
Rita, can you hear us for the next
question? I'm sorry about that. So the next question is for the school committee, and the order is Salvador, Eileen, and Larry. And the question is, what actions would you take to have more people of color be teachers, principals, and vice principals in our school? So Salvador, I'll turn it over to you first. You're on mute, Salvador. You need to unmute yourself.
Great, there we go. Yes, and I think we have to go about this in many different ways, right? I think the most important and the one that I'm most of an advocate for, right, is really trying to integrate, right, our school faculty into our own community, which means, right, incorporating them and having them live in Lexington as well, if they want to, of course, right? And I think that we need to really work on ways to make that possible, right? As I said before, affordable housing is really important, right? Also making sure that everybody, right, no matter their background or race or background, right, that they feel welcome in our community. And I think most people will say that they feel like that, right? But I think that this is something that we really have to discuss with our teachers, with our administrators, and with the residents of Lexington, because we need to provide a welcoming environment for them to be here. And it's something that many, many teachers feel they want to do. So that's the way I would look at it, and that's the way I would approach it.
Thanks, Salvador. Eileen, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I think having a diverse workforce in our educators and staff is highly important for the sake of our students. Seeing educators who look like them and can really understand their backgrounds and cultures, I think is hugely important to students. And it's an effort we really, really want to put a lot of work into. I think there are two aspects to it. One is trying to recruit an educator and staff workforce, and also retaining them. On the recruitment front, we've been doing a lot of work. We've actually increased the number of employees of color in the recent years through the work of Johnny Cole and our administrators. They are doing things like bringing students along to some of the recruitment events so that potential candidates will hear from students of why it's really important to come here and why Lexington is a good community for them to come to work in. I think retention is also an important part of it because we need to have employees of color enjoying and wanting to stay here to work. Some of that are things that we are already trying to do. We have staff affinity groups in Lexington Public Schools where staff can feel support with one another. I think we can allow them to be part of our hiring and process for when we do recruit and hire new administrators and staff. I think we can offer more training and support for them so that they feel that they do have the support of our entire school community. And I hope community members will also make them feel supported and welcome to our community.
Thank you, Ali. Larry, over to you. I think Larry needs some help unmuting. If that could be done, please. Larry, you're unmuted, so you should be able to we should be able to hear you.
All right, great, thank you. I definitely think that, you know, recruitment and retention, when we talk about recruitment, we definitely have to do more focused on where we're recruiting. That's just essential. And then we have to look at, you know, when we interview teachers of color, I think we definitely need to look at why they did not move forward with hiring and understand those roadblocks. And then, you know, when we interview teachers, we need to look, you know, internally at what do those teachers see in our schools when they come for an interview. I know that a person of color myself, if I go to the interview and I don't see anyone that looks like me, that could be a negative factor on whether I accept an offer or not. I think we definitely need to look at why teachers of color do not accept positions here in Lexington. We need to look at our interview process as well as our job descriptions that may be preventing teachers of color from exploring here in Lexington. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Yuna, over to you.
Thank you. The next question is for our planning board candidate, Rob. The question is, what are your thoughts on how to make our town center more interesting? Our neighborhood town like Concord, Warsaw, Arlington are all doing some, their town center are more inviting. Have you thought about establish some work-only zone in the center or any other thoughts to make our town center be more interesting? Bob, could you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think we do focus a lot on the town center, and I think it is certainly the centerpiece of the community. On the warrant for town meeting this year, there will be an initiative which would change the zoning in Lexington Center to allow for redevelopment, including mixed use, but it would come with additional height, which is something that we really need to have a full community conversation on what the center would look like going forward. The Battle Green Inn, I don't think is missed by many folks, and the redevelopment that was done there about now almost 15 years ago has become a valuable part of the community in Lexington Center with the condominiums and the retail on ground floor. So mixed use with a component of residential on the upper floors is something I think we need to look at. I think the town in general has done a great job with the streetscape project in Lexington Center. I think that traffic calming and making it a more walkable neighborhood will be very valuable going forward. And I think once we emerge from the pandemic, which we've lived with for 2 years now, the center is going to be a valuable asset going forward. And I look forward to the future in Lexington Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Rina, could you please facilitate the next question?
Sure. Deborah, the next question is for you. The question is, what outreach has been done with town meeting members, current and those who have resigned, to find out their opinion on the use of Zoom, hybrid, or in-person town meetings? So over to you.
Thanks for the question.
Deborah, you're muted, so if you could unmute, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're all set.
Thank you. This is a tricky question because the ability to conduct a remote town meeting has been time limited by the legislature. And in fact, in December, our ability to do it expired, and then now it's been reinstated temporarily by the legislature. So I've been reluctant to survey town meeting members about their experience unless I had a purpose for doing it going forward. So I think that we need to get through this next town meeting, and then I think that we should have some conversations about what worked, what didn't work, what could be improved, what the advantages were, and have a fuller conversation with one more annual town meeting under our belt. An annual town meeting, by the way, where we have not yet made a decision about whether we will invoke our ability to meet remotely.
Thank you, Deborah. Over to you.
Thank you. Our next question is for school committee candidates. It's about no homework in our current elementary school. How do you see the current practice of no homework in some, or if not all, Lexington elementary schools? We will let Larry go first, then Sylvander and Eileen last. Larry, could you please go ahead? Someone may need to unmute Larry.
Okay, you just gave me the rights. All right, thank you. Well, as a parent, I have 2 children, both in middle school now, but previously in elementary school. And I believe we should have homework. I don't agree if, with a no homework policy. I think it really sets students up for a lot of stress, both mentally and time management issues once they get to the high school when homework does start. So I do think, there should be some flexibility regarding homework, but I do believe students should be assigned homework. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I can go next.
Yes.
So my position on this is I also believe that there should be homework, but I think I would emphasize it should not be the focus as it is later on in their careers at Lexington High School and at the middle schools. And I think that it's important, as I said before, fundamentals, right? That they have the exposure to time management skills and to hard work, right? And I think that in elementary schools, we should really focus on other things such as social development and the building up of skills. And I think that this is something we have to work on, not just at the elementary level. I think that there are large gaps between elementary, middle school, and high school. And I think that as a school committee member, I really want to work on the transitions between those schools, because going from 5th grade to 6th grade is a big jump, going from 8th grade to 9th grade is a big jump. And so I think that this is something that we do have to look at and that we have to approach with open ears. So, yes.
Thank you. Ellen?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, at the time that the school committee worked on looking at the homework policy and trying to revise it, we knew that there were differing opinions on this, and particularly the elementary portion of it. There were some people who advocated for no homework, partly because there's research that showed that it was not, it didn't contribute to student learning at the elementary level. I have to say, I'm not totally convinced on that. I do think that homework is a valuable thing, even for younger students. We don't want to overburden them with homework. But I think as we made that decision, I was actually the only school committee member who advocated for having a better transition rather than having absolutely no homework in elementary school. I really would have liked seeing a ramp up of it so that students would have some experience of not only the routine of doing homework, but knowing how to use that skill going into middle school. I felt like it was too an abrupt transition to go immediately from no homework at all into homework at the middle school level. So I was the only one. So in the end, it was voted to have the no homework policy in elementary school. I really would have preferred letting teachers have some flexibility in being able to introduce homework at an appropriate level for the grade level students that they're teaching. I really would have liked seeing some of that be more left in the judgment of the teachers themselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for all our candidates. You have gone through all those difficult, challenge, tough questions. Let's have one fun question at the end. The question is, can you share one of your most memorable moments living in Lexington? So this question for all our candidates. Each of you will have 1.5 minutes. So let's begin with our moderator, Deborah.
Okay, so this is an easy one, and it was a perk that I did not realize would come my way once I became moderator. So yes, I don't get any sort of salary, but guess what? During non-COVID times, I can receive tickets for the reviewing station at Patriots Day for the reenactment. And that was one of the most thrilling experiences of my time in Lexington. I was able to bring my family, and we were able to be up close and personal for that amazing reenactment. So that perk alone has made the whole gig worthwhile. Looking forward to a time when I can do that again.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Now let's invite our planning board candidate, Rob.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, give me a second. The question is, can you share one of your most memorable moments living in Lexington?
Living in Lexington?
Yeah, one of the most memorable moments living in Lexington.
So I've been thrilled to have been in Lexington for the past 20 years. I think it is a wonderful community. I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed being involved and getting involved in town. And one of the things about Lexington that really is terrific is that it is very easy to get involved in the community, in town government, and in town affairs, so that it has been a true pleasure to live here and to be a part of the community. There are wonderful people in Lexington that I've met along the way, and I am thrilled for that experience. And in addition, as the parent of 2 Lexington High School alum, I think that they got the start that they needed through the work done in building an excellent school system, and that the educations that they got in Lexington have been first rate. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Then our select board, Joe and Susan. Joe, could you please go first?
So as a candidate, you might not think of me as an introvert, but I am. And so my comfort zone really is sort of small gatherings, and being Zoom is great. But as a member of select board, one of the things that I've done is attend lots of cultural activities, and those have truly been a growth experience, and one which I found extraordinary. And I'll pick out one of them, though in truth, all of them have been part of the very memorable event. I attended Holy before the pandemic, and you know, I knew of the festival, etc. But being in the midst of everyone, throwing colors and seeing the joy, was really a transformative experience for me, and I appreciate the opportunity and the obligation in some ways of getting involved and coming out of my shell to do that.
Thank you. Susie?
So it's hard to pick one, but in my role as a select board member, I would say it is seeing the joy, the shock, the appreciation on the faces of our paid staff when something that they've been working on for so long that we have come together as a community to support actually passes town meeting or actually passes a debt exclusion vote. I recall standing in the lobby of the Aloft Hotel next to the then fire chief as we were getting the results from that debt exclusion, which, you know, was Hastings, LCP, and the fire station. And just the look on his face when he realized after so many years of such hard work across the board in a collaborative manner that that was going to happen. And then over the years, actually see that building come to be. I think I'm frozen. I'm frozen. I'm not frozen. I'm back. Okay. So seeing that look on his face, it was just that was you can't replicate that. And we've seen it in other smaller projects that we've done. But you know, we have a truly dedicated town staff here on the municipal and school side. Seeing Liz Billy Fooing's face when she found out that she was going to get a standalone LCP and her tears of joy. You know, that's part of my why. It's not my whole why, but it's part of my why. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Our school committee, Eileen, could you please go first, then Larry, and the last Savannah.
Yes, I mean, I think as Rob said, I think one of the most amazing things is to be able to meet and work closely with all the amazing volunteers in this town. We are so fortunate. We have a lot of expertise that we get for free because people really care about contributing to the town. And it's just been a privilege to me to work with everyone. I've also really enjoyed the opportunity to be in my role as on the school committee to be a bridge between the cultural groups in town and our town government and our town leaders. I think it's really wonderful. We have a lot of cultural groups who really want to contribute to our town. I guess if there's one moment I can think of, I know last year there was that vigil on Hastings Park on Proud to be American, and where a lot of groups, not just Asian groups, but the entire town was supporting our community here. It was an opportunity. Our students really got engaged. A student even wrote a song, Proud to be American. And I think it just is representative of the way we really do want to come together as a diverse community and act as one.
Thank you so much. Larry, could you please go second?
I think,
We cannot hear. Yes.
yeah, one of the most memorable moments I had is shortly moving to Lexington, and I went to the town website and I saw all of these volunteer opportunities. Now, I lived in, all over the country, but I've never seen a town where citizens do so much volunteer work. And I thought that was just amazing. So I jumped in with both feet. Then I started working in the schools. And I think, throughout this campaign, I think I understand the level of involvement and engagement from the citizens of Lexington, because I've met so many. They are some of the smartest people in the world I've ever met. And just meeting with students, talking with the students, I think that's, what I love most about Lexington.
Thank you.
Well, there's multiple occasions where I can talk about that I really seen Lexington as being such a great place. I was somebody who was originally born in a very desolate area of Indiana. I thought that was going to be the rest of my life. You asked me 10, 12 years ago if I ever thought I'd be in Boston, I would never have told you. And so in many ways, fate brought me here, and I'm really glad that it did, because the people that are here in Lexington are great, right? And it's really why I'm doing this. I was, I understand what it feels like to be at rock bottom, and people here in Lexington helped me. And that's why I'm doing it, because I made a promise that when I had the opportunity to give back, I would do so. And so it's something that at Harvard, a lot of students wear badges of honors for many things, but the most proud badge of honor that I carry, right, is that I'm from Lexington, right? That I'm able to say that I went to the Lexington Public Schools and that I'm here, right, representing my town and my community. And I think that that's what my experience has been. And I think that this is an experience that many citizens here in Lexington feel, right? And I think that this is something that we all share and we all have in common. And I think that that has been my experience and has motivated me as a young person to continue to move forward and to give back. So, yes.
Thank you so much. Very beautiful moments. Thank you for sharing. And this concludes our Q&A session for all our panelists. In our town-wide selection election day, it's besides for those committee, we also has town meeting member from each precinct election. So next, Rina will announce our town meeting member candidates.
Yeah, so as they come up on the board, thank you all the panelists for going through all these questions and giving us valuable answers. I'm going to read out the names because they're just as important, those elections. So I want to read out the names of each of the candidates who are standing for election from each precinct. Can the slide please be shared with the names so that people, the audience can see it as I'm saying the names, please.
Sudhir, are you there? We go to precinct 1, Sudhir. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so these are the candidates who are standing for election from each of the precincts, and I'm going to read out the names of the people standing for election. From precinct 1, we have Hongbin Liu, Catherine Reynolds, Valerie Overton, Louis Angelo, Larry Freeman, Eric Michelson. From precinct 2, we have Ajay Joseph, Matthew Cohen, Betsy Weiss, Matthew Daggett, Rita Goldberg, Ricky Papel, Emily Webster, Charles Honig. From precinct 3, we have Franklin Smith, Glenn Parker, Jean Krieger, Delenot Bastine, Courtney Apgar, Christopher Buenrostoro, Sally Bleiberg, and Thomas Diaz. From precinct 4, we have Sandra Shaw, Gerald Paul, Lawrence Chan, Niall Barnett, Wendy Mans, Catherine Roy, John Zhao, Marsha Traber, Melanie Thompson, Gerald Michelson, Andrew Friedlich, Marilyn Fenellosa, Irene Donnelly. From Precinct 6, we have Deborah Stroud, Don McKenna, Frederick Johnson, Andrea Freibush, Margaret Counts Clevey, Sarah Bothwell Allen, and Erin Stroud. From Precinct 7, we have Robert Peters, Vikas Kinga, Mary Hamilton, Robert Creech, Patricia Costello, Mary Burnwell, Christian Boutwell. From Precinct 8, we have Alan Levine, Betty Gao, Margaret Enders, Victoria Buckley, Sudhir Ranjan, Margaret Copy, Victoria Blyle, Janet Perry, Thomas Fenn, Rodney Cole, Scott Bunsen, David Sheehan, Michael Schroeder, Vinitha Kumar, and Mark Anderson. Those are the names. And if I did make some mistakes in the pronunciation, I apologize in advance for that. Okay, all the best to everybody standing for election. And Vinitha, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Rena and Yuna. I want to start with apologizing with some of the technical glitches we had in the background, and we're still troubleshooting some of those. So the delay we had in getting you unmuted, and Deborah and Rob, we were not able to pin you. We're still trying to do that towards the end. I'm very sorry about that. But I want to thank, actually on behalf of Housey and CALex and iGiG and IL, everybody who came together to get this done. I want to thank everybody, our attendees who've taken time from a very beautiful Saturday morning, spring-like actually, to spend this time with us, listening to our candidates for running, and for your passion towards town government. Also to our community, everybody who sent their questions. We were obviously not able to ask all the questions. Those questions will be sent to our candidates. Sudhir, you can remove this for a second. We'll take pictures first. And so those questions will be sent to all the candidates, so you know what questions are coming from the community and you can respond as you choose. Very importantly, I want to thank all our volunteers. It does take a little bit of effort to do these things on Zoom. I don't know how we do it. Joe and Deborah for town meetings every time. It's so efficient. But thank you very much. Now, before we go, we wanted to take pictures. So Rita, if we can, is it possible for everybody to turn on their audio videos?
So thank you, Vinitha. So before we take pictures, I want to also thanks to all candidates for sharing and answering questions. And thank you, Michelle, for your inspiring word. And thanks to moderators, Rena and Yuna, for your fabulous hosting, and all volunteers for your great work and support. So this is the first time iGiG and CALex work together to host this candidate forum. I want to take this opportunity to thank Vinitha and her team for the hard work, thinking through and taking care of a lot of details for this event. So I also want to thank CALex team for introducing candidates to the community every year. So we hope this candidate forum will help generate more communication, interaction, and synergy between the elected officers and the community, which is an important part to make Lexington a more welcome community and a better place to live. So for all their members, please vote on Monday, March. And if you haven't registered to vote in the past, the last day to register in town election is next Tuesday, February 15th. So good luck to all candidates.